All right, we are live. We got a special one, mucho caliente. You know it's serious when you, Big Joe, Big Collectibles got the red glasses out, and fuego. We're sitting down with Regie Collects Comics. This is a treat for me. One of my favorite content creators when it comes to comic books. Oh my goodness, Regie, how are you? How you feeling today?
Bien.
Hey, yes, you see, we're coming with a little bit of everything. We're going to teach a little bit of Spanish today.
What's funny is I was talking Spanish to my boy earlier today, and he's like, he's saying all kinds of stuff in Spanish, and I'm like, I'm glad that I remember my stuff from elementary school, because high school and college, not so much.
You know, it's I don't practice it enough. I need to practice it enough.
It is definitely a skill. It is a skill, brother. And if you don't practice it, it will get away from you, you know. And I'm as dumb as a rock when it comes to foreign languages. So thankfully I can just speak in English, and people are good with that, you know. So
sometimes I have trouble with English myself.
It happens, but it is a pleasure to join you, Joey. I appreciate you having me on, man. Glad that we could work it out and make the magic happen.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So let's we're gonna get right into it. And you know, before we officially start, though, I want to mention. Look, I've got it pinned there in the chat. If for whatever reason you're not subbed already to Regie Collects Comics, it's there. Go sub, come back, because you may miss some juice, something exciting that we were talking about. But hurry up, go sub for whatever reason. If you're familiar with Veve and you're investing in comic books, you've got to educate yourself. And there we go. We've got a perfect source for you to educate yourself. John G, what's up, brother? Welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started right now. And of course, if you like free stuff, subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff. Tomorrow, we're going to have a giveaway. All right. So, Regie, where were your parents born?
We are from Detroit, Michigan, man. Born and raised.
Very cool. Very cool.
If you're from Michigan and you're a kid, that's how they tell you to tell people where you're from if you're lost. Like, you put your palm up and you point to where Detroit is, because it's shaped like a mitten. Michigan is shaped like a mitten. Got you.
So, and then I know that you've relocated not even too long ago. Again, if you don't want to mention where you're at, I don't need an address. I'm just saying the state.
No, brother, I tell people all the time I'm like a migrant worker, man. So I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and I left Michigan to go to college. And I remember calling my mother freshman year of college, and I was like, I am never coming home again, right? And part of what I was saying to her was like, look, I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet, right? I went to Howard University in Washington, D.C., and I was like, I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet. I'm going to do my thing. I want you to be proud of me. She heard something completely different, like moms and parents do. She heard something completely different, was like offended, hurt her feelings. I think there might have been a tear. But after college, I bounced around, man. I had a pretty good career. I've been in about 9 different states over the last like 20 some odd years. So I get around, and I'm in the pharmaceutical biotech space. And so I go where the opportunities are. And sometimes it's in California, sometimes it's Florida, sometimes it is in Plainville, Connecticut. Right now it is North Carolina.
Very cool. Dokta Strange, what's up? Matter of fact, this shirt was gifted to me by Dokta Strange in the chat. What's up? Okay.
Yes. Howard University, my sister's class of 94. I arrived in 94. That's when I arrived at Howard University.
Very cool, man. All right. So we got a little bit of a, geographic breakdown. What toys did you play with when you were growing up?
The ones that we could afford. Like legitimately, my parents were really young parents. Like, my mom had me when she was 17 years of age. So, we played with whatever, the family could afford. Right. So I think it was mostly like G.I. Joes and Transformers. Like, that was the really like hot, popular stuff. So I literally across the room have some of my original He-Man, Transformers, and GI Joes, because my mother also saves things for sentimental purposes. So she saved a lot of my stuff from my childhood.
Very cool. I guess that's where you got your collecting from.
Maybe,
You know?
maybe Sheila. If you want an old Michael Jackson jacket, Sheila probably has it.
Oh.
She doesn't hoard, but she will save things that she believes has some sentimental value to her children, and she will file it away and she will bust it out at the right moment. And the wet works begin. Who doesn't love seeing stuff from their childhood? You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah. I have a box for each one of my kids,
Yep.
and I put stuff in there. Even now, it could be any little thing. I love you, Daddy. No, bang, in the box.
Agree. I have stuff from my daughter on the table behind me, off to the side, that she's given me. At one point, my boy's Voltron actually disappeared, because I have a Voltron from my childhood that my mother gave me. We bought my boy a Voltron, and he was like not really appreciating it. So I kind of like hid it for like 6 months, and then he started asking about it. I was like, you know what, maybe I should just give it back. And he still doesn't appreciate it, so it may be hitting again.
I have the same problem.
Yep.
So cartoons, what cartoons did you watch?
So I think it was, again, like GI Joe, Transformers, He-Man, whatever came on, like was a Saturday morning cartoon. I would wake up, have my cereal, and I would stand there and watch Smurfs. I was a big Smurf fan, man, back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
I think Silverhawks. I don't know a person that did not watch the later in life, the X-Men, the animated series. I was a big fan of that. So, if there was a cartoon on, more than likely I watched it. Heathcliff, I think I watched a lot of that as well.
Yeah. I was big into Smurfs, also GI Joe. It's that era.
Yep.
So anything current shows that you're into?
I don't really watch cartoons now.
Yeah.
and my audience gives me a really hard time about that, but I'm just not into cartoons. It's not my jam. I'm more of a a movie kind of guy. Like right now I'm rewatching the Aliens series all over again, because it's for a limited time on Amazon Prime, so I'm rewatching that. But cartoons in the present day, not so much, unless my boy wants me to watch something with him. So we've watched a little bit of the new Masters of the Universe. We've watched that. We watched a little bit of Voltron together. And it's just cool, because they like to connect with the stuff that Dad watched as a little baby. That's how they refer to me, as a little baby. So we sit and occasionally watch some stuff together.
Okay. That's dope. Again, I go through this. I throw on the old school GI Joe, Voltron shows, and they love it. They're like, "Oh, you watch this?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Yeah, it's fun." What about video games when you were growing up?
Growing up.
Yeah,
brother, growing up. If it was on Nintendo, I had it. Duck Hunt, Excite Bike. What were some of the other ones? There was the baseball game, like much later, Sonic the Hedgehog from Sega Genesis. So back, a little bit later, as I got a little older, our financial situation changed, and I was able to get, a lot more of those systems, and was able to play a lot of those games. So if it was on like Sega Genesis, or if it was on Nintendo, I had it. And I'm laughing because I was also a big fan of Burger Time. And my stepfather had a console, and I can't remember which console it was, but like one of his only games was like Burger Time, and I used to play a lot of Burger Time. And somebody actually gave me a graded Burger Time game a couple of years ago, and so it was like this little cool piece of history kind of coming back around.
The fact that you had an emotional tie to it, that makes it special.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's one of the great things about, the hobby. And you can pick your hobby, right? Trading cards, video games, comics. You can pick your hobby. The nostalgia that comes with some of this stuff is part of what makes it really special. I mean, that connection to a earlier time in your life, a simpler time in your life, maybe a magical time in your life is really awesome. And that's, to some degree or another, what we're paying for, right? We're buying pieces of our childhood back to relive them, because it reminds us of a greater, simpler time.
For sure, for sure. And when you mentioned duck hunt, now I have to ask that, you know, I would get up close. I was like, you know, I would get right up to it, like, you know. Did you do the same
Hey,
thing?
man, that dog used to laugh at me and I didn't care for it, right? So I used to get right up on the glass.
I was like, man, I'm gonna get all of them, man. These ducks dead meat.
Yeah. I think every single person out there is guilty of getting right on the TV, you know. But I mean, you know, let's be completely clear. If you are like blowing on that cartridge, you know, rubbing it with the Q-tip, with the alcohol on it, trying to get the connections right, you deserve to score as many points as you can score, however you score. That's all that I'm saying to you. You've earned the right to cheat. Okay.
Man, it's a workout before you even put the game in. It should be, that's it. You put the game in, you bam, high score. You got it.
If you don't pass out from blowing on that thing, you do what you do, you know.
So, all right. So we spoke about the video games and stuff. So, you know, the comics. Do you remember your first comic book?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. No, heck no. So what I would say to you is that I had a lot of older cousins on one side of my family. And I think my earliest experience with a comic was probably one of theirs. And it was either like a Hulk comic or like a Plastic Man, elongated man type of comic. But the very first comic that I ever remember like owning or buying, I would be guessing at what that comic was, to be honest with you. You know, just because you know, there were some Atlas comics that I remember owning early on, but I don't know if those were the first comics that I ever owned. You know what I'm saying? Like my memory's not that great. And I can't remember like how old I was. So I struggle to give an accurate answer to that type of question, you know, but comics have been around, let's just say this, for a long time in some form or another, from my early childhood to when I was in junior high, high school, and then certainly into adulthood.
So you kept your comic books from the start, or did you get rid of your collection and had to rebuild?
So Sheila doesn't throw anything away.
Right.
So for me, man, I used to work at rallies. I used to be the sandwich maker, and I used to work at Taco Bell as well. So I would go to work, you know, either one of those jobs, because I had them, you know, the rally job for a period of time, and then it was Taco Bell. But I used to work there and I used to get my little check for $100 or 125 or something like that. And then I would ride my bike at various points, my 10-speed bike up to Ferndale, Michigan. And I would go to a comic shop up there and I would buy my comics. I would come home, go into the basement, and I would read my comics. And even as, you know, middle schooler and then high schooler, I believed in protecting what I spent my money on. So my comics, by and large, were always bagged and boarded. Sometimes if you were a comic that I didn't really like, you didn't get a bag or board, you know, or maybe you had a bag and board, but then you lost it because again, that $125 check doesn't go very far, you know. But early on, I remember having 3 long boxes of comics. And the first 2 were really good. And then the third half box was like the okay stuff, you know, it was like the okay stuff. But my collection was maintained. I went away to college. My parents looked after it. They moved from Michigan to Ohio. They transported my collection. Later in life, in like 2005, 2006, when I was older, a little more established, they drove my collection to me and they were like, here you go. This is your responsibility now. And I maintained it from 2005 all the way to the present day. Like I literally have books in this room from my rally and Taco Bell money.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's special, man. That's special.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of, I always like to show at least one physical. You know, I've got my Wolverine one from the miniseries right here.
Wonderful book.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite. I had this for a very long time, and it's special because, as you mentioned, you have your emotional ties to it. you think, oh yeah, I had that job,
Yep.
you know, hustling, do what you have to do to get the comic book. And that's what I love about collecting and
Yep.
keeping, these comics.
It takes you back to an earlier time, man. Like I can still feel the icy cold that comes with sticking your hand in the bath that you had to put the heads of lettuce in with the ice and the cold water. Like you have to, like I used to do that first thing in the morning, dig my hand in there and pull out the heads of lettuce so I could make the sandwiches. It was awful, but it was all for the love of comics. Like there are comics in that I can picture right now in my head that I know that I bought as a kid that are still here, like Incredible Hulk 377. That Dale Keown lime green and black cover is one that I can picture any day because he also signed it for me at some point in my childhood. Right there are some Uncanny X-Men books with Wolverine and Cameron Hodge on the cover, orange cover, that readily come to mind because these were the books that I earned and that I read over and over and over again as a kid.
Yeah. So I have to ask. Obviously, your knowledge on comic books, next level. So, if you were going to be a comic book hero,
say that again.
If you were going to be a comic book superhero, which one would it be?
Oh man, that's a tough question. Like my favorite character is Spider-Man. I dig Spider-Man, like incredible guy. But maybe if I had to pick a character, it might be like the Blue Marvel. Might be the Blue Marvel. And a lot of people may not be familiar with the Blue Marvel, but he is a character that was created by a Howard University grad, I do believe. The guy that wrote the Lycan and Werewolves. I can't remember what the series was, but he's written a lot of things. He did a comic series, and one of the characters he created was the Blue Marvels, a limited series of 5 issues. Incredibly powerful character that is also incredibly intelligent. And you don't see him all that often, but he is a really dope character. And if you haven't read the Blue Marvel series, I highly encourage people to check it out. It is incredibly well done. So maybe that would be a character that I would pick. Again, people don't necessarily know that. It's not like Thor or Spider-Man or Incredible Hulk or, you know what I'm saying? But the Blue Marvel's dope.
Right, for sure. By the way, anybody in the chat that's watching, I've got, and for whatever reason, you're not subbed already to Regie Collects Comics. Go subscribe, hurry back, because we're getting in it. We're getting in it with Regie, getting to know, obviously, huge YouTube personality, but we're getting to know who he is, a little bit more about him as a person, his background. So, all right. So what about the figurines? Any Marvel figures, toys that you collect also?
So I always say to people that I personally believe you can only have one vice. And my vice is floppies, is basically single issue copies, comics. That is like my focus. I do have some statues, but the statues that I have or the figures that I have are all like gifts and AOKs from my subscribers. I think statues are incredible. It's just that one, I have young children, and young children don't let you have anything nice. They will destroy something in a heartbeat. And then two, every time I see a statue and I'm like, I really want this statue, I always think, man, I could buy a really nice key comic for that same money. So I never do it. Like I can tell you, there was I believe it was a Sideshow Scorpion statue that came out about 2 years ago. I stared at that statue for weeks. Like I was zooming in on the detail. I was like, this thing is dope. Could not pull the trigger. Could not. And I think that thing like tripled in value. I could not pull the trigger because I was like, I got to get this next comic,
Man, no, I get it. And what you mentioned about, having kids is definitely a factor. And you know what? That's what really made me want to get into NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I'm able to get these statues digitally, and hopefully I'll be able to have them in a metaverse of some sort where I can go ahead and see them, and they have value to them because there's only a certain amount of them minted.
And your kids can't destroy them.
Yes, that's the most important thing.